It's round 5 of the WMSC 3 World Tour. We're headed for Adelaide, Australia today, and we might have a championship decider on our hands, but let's explain that as part of the WMSC 3 World Tour news. Lorenzo Turi currently holds a 9-point lead over both Daniel Bentenrieder and Max Heyman ahead of the Adelaide race. If he finishes ahead of both of them and gets fastest lap or pole position, he wins the championship outright. Unless, of course, either Bentenrieder or Heyman get a fastest lap or pole position themselves. If he wins without getting a fastest lap or pole position, he needs Bentenrieder and Heyman not to finish right behind him. Throughout the race, we'll keep you up to date as to whether Turi is going to clinch the championship or not. After the last race gave us a surprise winner in the form of Dominik Kronski, we took the opportunity to talk to him. Seeing as his performance left a lot to be desired in the AMC 2022 and parts of the WMSC 3 World Tour, did he struggle jumping from F1 Challenge, an older sim where he has performed brilliantly as part of his own CIR championship, into Automobilista 1?
I don't really think the physics are the reason why I've been struggling and having a hard time getting to grips, but rather the wheel settings. I just couldn't find the correct wheel settings that would suit me, because I was in AMC, I was using the same wheel settings as I am in CAR on F1 Challenge, and too bad I only worked that out that it wasn't a good idea towards the end of the AMC season. I've been using completely different wheel settings, and they've been working splendidly, even though I'm pretty much pointless every other race than Kyle Army.
Also, let me show you something that happened on the day of the race in one of Josh Kassar's streams. See, me and Mr. Kronski made a bit of a bet before the race.
I don't know where I'm going to hang it. I mean, I've got a wall full of Ayrton Senna portraits and pictures, so hopefully I can slot it in somewhere in between. It's got a pretty strange combination of Ayrton Senna and Frentzen, two goats.
And finally, after having left the RSL during the final stages of the AMC 2022, Josh Kassar has decided to return for one race only, seeing as it's held on his favorite track in the world. Therefore, we talked to the Adelaide expert about his backstory regarding the track and about its most crucial elements.
When I was a kid, my second ever Formula One game was Formula One on the PlayStation 1. And I always remember falling in love with Adelaide immediately, especially because on the game, Murray Walker would briefly talk about how it was the final time at Adelaide for Formula One. And I remember he said in like a very melancholy tone, "And now for the final time.
For the last time at Adelaide, Australia, for the final round of this year's championship."
And I just remember it sticking with me as a kid, and because he highlighted that it was the final time, I felt like I need to race this as much as possible before it disappears, because I was only like 4 years old. Yeah, I raced there a hell of a lot and kind of loved the layout, and then as I grew up, I watched some of the historic races at Adelaide, and I just think it was the perfect finale venue. It seemed like a great party atmosphere. I had some great races there, and then once I got into sim racing, I did a lot of driving there, and I just adore the circuit. I think it's a circuit that really pushes you to better yourself at every single corner and has a really good flow to it, despite having three very distinctly different sectors. Yeah, I think that the real challenge of Adelaide comes from relaxing. And I mean, I'm no professional racing driver, but from my time driving at Adelaide, I've always found that one of the hardest things is to consistently be quick, but keep calm. It's a circuit. It's a street circuit at the end of the day. Things can go wrong very quickly, very easily. I think, as we found out in practice for this race. Yeah, it's a circuit that's willing you to constantly go faster, and keeping calm and remaining focused, I've always found is the hardest thing about this circuit. It's the biggest challenge. Qualifying is amazing. Pushing that thing to get an extra tenth or an extra hundredth out of it is, yeah, it's one of the most rewarding things. And again, it's been the most fun. It probably has been the most fun part of practicing for this race, is just trying to go that little bit quicker.
So let's watch Daniel Benton-Reeder's pole position lap. 1 extra point for him already today down the main straight beneath the Adelaide Bridge into the Senna chicane. Over the bumps, try and go full throttle up to 5th gear. Into Wakefield and East Terrace. Essentially a few 90-degree corners which are incredibly difficult to handle with this car. Look at Benton-Reeder drifting through those 90-degree turns, but he manages to go through there quite quickly. Into Hutt Street and then down this long, incredibly long straight, which is even longer on the original layout. There would be a bigger chicane in the middle, bigger than this one, which is called the Speed Stick Corner. Down the Brabham straight into the Decadville Hairpin. Apologies if my pronunciation is absolutely terrible. Into the final sector, this long bend, which could cause a few issues for people depending on whether you want to go 2 or 3 wide into those chicanes and corners. Into the final section of the circuit, Mistral Hairpin down the main straight once again, and it is a pole position for Daniel Benton-Reeder. As I mentioned, 1 extra point for him already. So it's pole position for Daniel Benton-Reeder, which means that if he finishes right behind Lorenzo Turi, the championship will be decided in Suzuka. Josh Cassar with a fantastic second place, only 0.05 of a second behind Benton-Reeder. Seeing as I want all of you at home to be able to differentiate between Ash Baker and Josh Cassar on track today, Ash Baker is going to run with a gray and yellowish livery reminiscent of his channel design, while Josh Cassar is gonna utilize the Super Gazelle aesthetic for his livery today, using the colors pink and purple. Turi in 3rd, Flynn in 4th, Heyman in 5th, Seifert in 6th, Curtis, Kronsky, Bivona, and Simon Core rounding out the top 10. Things are looking a tad bit desperate for Heyman at this point. Brzezinko in 11th, Wittmann in 12th, Sopanen in 13th, behind his debuting teammate Ash Baker in 14th, ahead of Hugh Hamill, Lucas Hamilton, and Giovanni Philippe qualified without setting lap times. Let's wait for the 1 red light. And it's off, away we go. Josh Cassar with a great start. So is Benton-Reeder off quite well. Turi behind him trying to overtake him. Possibly Benton-Reeder pushing Turi into the grass. Doesn't quite work. Cassar in the inside. Everybody following through T1. Both of them still in the race. And Benton-Reeder still ahead of Josh Cassar. Turi in 3rd. Heyman behind in 4th. Everybody through it. There's a big accident. I think that's Aaron Curtis and Lucas Hamilton who crashed into each other. And we already have a safety car deployed after only a couple of corners, and that's kind of what we suspected might happen. Let's have a look at the replay, what happened there. And oh my goodness. What an absolutely enormous punt from Lucas Hamilton, it seems, because Hamill and Seifert went through. Looking at it from Lucas Hamilton's perspective, well, that doesn't really look like a smart move, to be completely honest with you. I have no idea what he assumed was going to happen, but I can already tell you that will be a big penalty for Mr. Hamilton after the race, seeing as both him and Curtis had to retire. Safety car restart. Daniel Benton-Reeder trying to bunch everybody up behind him, trying to annoy drivers, as we're going to hear in the team radio.
I'm guessing he's just going to gun it when he thinks I least expect it, so this is absurd. Mate, come on.
And you can tell both me and Cassar are quite frustrated, as well as Mr. Ash Baker in the background, as Benton-Reeder is just waiting and annoying people with his behavior. We're off once again. Green flag in Adelaide. Benton-Reeder with a great restart. Cassar still in 2nd. Turi Heyman behind him. And Bivona, I think, is up to 5th place. Great start so far from the Mirablau driver. Behind him, Seifert and Flynn, Kronsky in 8th. But Benton-Reeder outbreaks himself, and Josh Cassar is in the lead. But Turi's not the champion yet. He needs to pass Josh Cassar to clinch the championship. Of course, remember, Daniel Benton-Reeder got pole position, so at least 1 point on the board already for Daniel Benton-Reeder, which means that right now Lorenzo Turi would go into the finale with a 10-point advantage. Bivona, Seifert, Flynn, Kronsky in the background, Wittmann fighting with Juho Tsekko-Sopanen. Turi maybe having a look at Josh Kassar, doesn't quite go for it, but Sopanen certainly does. Sending it into the hairpin. Now ahead of Mark Wittmann, Sopanen now in 9th place, behind them Kor and Ruzinko, as well as Giovanni Philippe. And that was absolutely crucial for both Josh Kassar and Lorenzo Turi. For Kassar, so he's in a position now where he can dictate the pace, seeing as he has the pace to win today, as Sopanen possibly slightly outbreaks himself, as I think there's a car off. Yes, a pink car of Bivona. Bivona seemingly made a mistake. We're going to have a look at that in just a second, which means that now he's dropped out of the points. And you can see Bivona almost taking Daniel Bentenrieder out of the race, and that could have definitely ended Bentenrieder's dreams in this year's WMSC 3 World Tour. Just look at how close he got to Bentenrieder's rear wing. Lucky Bentenrieder there. That could have been disastrous. And as we see on that same lap, Dominik Kronsky spun right behind Josh Flynn there for falling out of the points as well. I suspect there will be slight damage to his front wing, though he is able to continue. And look at Josh Kassar in the lead. Right behind him, Lorenzo Turi. How aggressive is Turi going to be? Seeing as he could speculate on Daniel Bentenrieder possibly making another mistake there for dropping back a bit more. Then again, that would mean that Max Heyman would be back in the championship hunt, at least in theory. But who knows what the Costech boys have in mind for the rest of the race, seeing as right now Bentenrieder would go into the finale with a 10-point deficit. Look at Wittmann trying to overtake Sopanen into the hairpin, does so successfully. Great duel between the two in the midfield behind them. Agatino, Bivona, Simon Kor, and as we can see in the background, there was a maneuver between Ruzinko and Aaron Curtis, who's now made up a place. Fantastic fights in the midfield, but the focus is definitely going to be on both Josh Kassar and Lorenzo Turi today, as we see the two Mirablow cars fighting with each other.
Wait, Agatino, let me fight this guy. Never mind. Lead
Thank you.
And again, we heard some team radio there from the Mirablow boys, seeing as Juho Tsekko-Sopanen streamed the race on his Twitch channel. Of course, link to that in the description below. Ahead of them, Mark Wittmann with a solid performance so far for Streamline Engineering, though this season has been quite disappointing, I'd argue, for the team, of course, conceptualized by Mr. James Early, as we see Bivona trying to overtake Wittmann once again. Contact between the two. Very aggressive race from Bivona so far. I wonder whether that might actually cost him points at some stage. And Josh Kassar still in the lead with that 100 Super Gazelle Team RSL car. Bentenrieder, Heyman, Seifert in 5th, Flynn in 6th, behind him Wittmann and Bivona fighting. Then Sopanen and Kor, and behind them Aaron Curtis. Bivona once again trying to go for the gap. Possibly outbreaks himself, but he manages to stay ahead of the Austrian. Sopanen behind him as well as Curtis and Kor. Close, very close, and there is a collision between the two. Both of them losing their rear wings. They're flying off into the air, and both of them will need to go for a pit stop. Bivona spinning.
What an idiot, man.
No, Gatino.
But both of them are able to continue. No safety car necessary. I need to catch a break here for just a second. Jesus Christ, my neighbors are going to hate me. Look at that collision. Both of them, neither of them willing to give an inch, and therefore costing both of them loads of time. And look at that. Bivona almost taking out his teammate. Kor and Curtis filing through there. And Josh Kassar is still in the lead of this race. And it would be his first victory in online sim racing in over 13 years of pursuing this hobby. And wouldn't it be a great story of one of the two people who conceptualized the ORSL back in late 2021 to return to the series on his favorite racing venue in the world and taking the W, as we see Ash Baker making a mistake, colliding with Dominik Kronsky, and that will surely spell the end to both of their races in terms of points contention, as we see Aaron Curtis trying to overtake Simon Kor successfully into the hairpin as well. Seemingly popular overtaking spot today as Kor drops back to 9th, Curtis now in 8th place. As we see Kassar, Turi, Heyman in 3rd, Bentenrieder in 4th, Seifert almost putting it into the wall, still in 5th though, ahead of Josh Flynn. the man racing for Back Row Motorsports. Again, it's been a somewhat disappointing season for Streamline. It's been a great season so far, at least in my books, for Back Row Motorsports, considering that they considered themselves a backmarker team. They've been performing quite well so far this year as we look at the standings on lap 13. And I've got to wonder, can Josh Cassar withstand the pressure and actually win today? And also, is Lorenzo Turi still in a position where he might actually clinch the championship today, or are we going to see a title decider for the final round of the WMSC 3 World Tour in Suzuka? As we see Ash Baker fighting with Agostino Bivona in the pink 41 Mirablau car. Again, debut for Bivona. He's been quick, but certainly inconsistent and potentially overly aggressive as we see Bivona trying to go around the outside, possibly, of Ash Baker, as Ash Baker spins. Another mistake from the sim racing rookie. Certainly disappointing for him as we listen to the team radio.
I'm not moving. The train can go by.
Thank you for being a decent human being and not trying to flick spin it in front of everyone.
There is a time and a place, and that was not the place, unfortunately.
As I said before, me, Baker, and Cassar being in the same TeamSpeak channel, essentially a 3-car team radio channel today. And it'll definitely be disappointing for Ash Baker as Josh Cassar is still in the lead, trying to build a gap to Lorenzo Turi as we see Max Heyman spinning and crashing, flipping upside down, and that will be a safety car.
I was literally just going into the pits because my tyres were shot, and I'm getting damage repaired. I've timed it perfectly. The question is, will it make any difference?
God.
Safe release.
I'm really happy for you. Really happy for you. 1.5 I'd push the gap out to, and that took 10 minutes to do.
Heyman trying his damnedest to push to get ahead of Lorenzo Turi. It didn't quite work over those incredibly dangerous bumps. Almost crashing into Dominik Kronsky there. And despite the safety car being deployed, surprisingly, Max Heyman was able to continue. That's right, he went into the pits, got his car repaired, and he was able to continue. Josh Cassar still in the lead of this race ahead of Lorenzo Turi. Benton Reader now in 3rd, Seifert now in 4th, Flynn, Curtis, Core in 7th all of a sudden, Sopanen in 8th ahead of Wittmann, Hamill, and Bivona. And of course, that will be an incredibly tense restart because at this stage, not only do we have to wonder, is Cassar going to be able to hold it together? Because I can guarantee you he's got to be shedding buckets of adrenaline at this stage. And let's see if he can keep Turi, Benton Reader, Seifert, and Flynn behind him. Again, he's got the pace to win today, and wouldn't it be an emotional story if he were able to win his first race in online sim racing in over 13 years of pursuing this hobby. Turi behind him in 2nd. He could become the champion. If Benton Reader drops back a few more places, he will clinch the championship. But wouldn't it be great if he could clinch the championship with a victory? Green flag. Josh Cassar dictates the pace. Great restart from Cassar. Turi behind him in 2nd, trying to keep Benton Reader at bay. Seifert in 4th, a bit of a gap to Josh Flynn in 5th place, racing for SCMM. Going over the curbs aggressively as we see Turi almost losing it. As Benton Reader tries a dive bomb, loses it once again, almost crashes into Roy Seifert, losing another few places. And at this stage, all Lorenzo Turi seemingly needs to do is to keep going, and he's gonna be the champion as yours truly crashes into the wall. How did I manage to do that? How did I manage to screw this up? Well, fighting with Sopanen, overly aggressive, didn't have the pace, went into the wall. That one is on me. But Josh Cassar still in the lead ahead of Lorenzo Turi. Roy Seifert now in a brilliant 3rd place ahead of Benton Reader. Flynn, Curtis up to 6th. Sopanen up to 7th place. And I can assure you there are going to be a lot of nerves under that virtual helmet right now. Seifert still in 3rd. Benton Reader, Flynn, Curtis, a bit of a gap to Sopanen. Heyman already up to 8th place. I wonder whether he thinks his championship is over at this stage. Because remember, all Turi needs to do at this stage is to finish ahead of both of the Kostek boys, and he will be the champion. And you've got to wonder whether Benton Reader was too aggressive today, seeing as he didn't need to make that mistake. He didn't need to go that aggressive, because all he needed to do to keep the championship fight alive was stay right where he was. He didn't need to fight Josh Cassar as hard as he did, but he did anyway, and he might have cost himself a shot at the championship in Suzuka. Look at Heyman. Chasing Sopanen over the bumps, 5th gear. Is he going to go up to 6th gear? No, as Benton Reader tries to overtake Curtis, successfully does so, bumping into Curtis. No, he doesn't. Curtis with a great defense there again, another solid performance from Aaron Curtis, but Benton Reader with the switchback now ahead of the Turismo Autosport car. As Sopanen's fighting with Heyman, but both Sopanen and Benton Reader are going off over the curb as well as Dominic Kronsky. Oh, that's a great image. Curtis still ahead of Benton Reader, now Heyman behind him. I wonder whether they're going to be team orders, seeing as I suspect Heyman's on fresh tires, seeing as he had to pit to repair his car. As we see those cars going 3 wide into the hairpin, as we also see Bivona in the background already catching up to the queue again. The safety car definitely helped him in his case, after losing his rear wing in that duel with Mark Wittmann. And now Heyman going through on the final turn. Says thank you very much as Bivona is now right up the rear end of his teammate once again. Only a couple of minutes to go in this race, and considering what we've already seen from Mr. Bivona today, I am convinced that he's gonna try his damnedest to overtake his teammate, despite that possibly not being a good idea. While he's racing, as Sopanen is trying to overtake Curtis as well as Bivona. That could have ended in disaster, but to his credit, he made it work, almost bumping into Aaron Curtis there. Only just able to keep it out of the wall and out of Curtis' car as he bumps into his teammate. I don't even know what to say at this stage. Agostino Bivona with an absolutely absurd performance at this stage, it seems. Let's have a look at the replay. And I can already assure you that Juho Checo Sopanen is going to be absolutely furious about this.
I didn't think you would break that early, man.
F*** you.
What the f*** is on with you? I didn't think you would break that early.
But guess what? The duel continues now. Bivona versus Sopanen. Into the hairpin. Look at Kronsky turning in, bumping into Bivona. Sopanen says thank you very much. Both of them stuck on the curb. This has been a fantastic duel so far. Simply because Agostino Bivona, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be able to find his brake pedal. And I can already assure you that the race director, Alexander Knezovic, is definitely going to have a look at that as Sopanen outbrakes himself. So the duel between the two Mirror-Blau cars continues. As we see now, Bivona out of the slipstream. Kronsky on the outside, seemingly brake checking against his own teammate. But he spins, puts it into the wall. Sopanen's through once again. Kronsky ahead as well. Absolutely ridiculous performance as Kronsky's trying to go around the outside. Manages to do so, but he bumps into the wall, therefore having to give the position back to Sopanen. And this is the final lap of the race. One more lap to go for Josh Cassar, and he might possibly win the 5th round of the WMSC 3 World Tour. And wouldn't it be fantastic considering that, well, Josh was the one who helped create the ORSL. In fact, he was the one who conceptualized the ORSL with me in late 2021, early 2022, conceptualized the American Monoposto Championship as he just went through that famous chicane where Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill had their little collision in 1994, and behind him Lorenzo Turi. He is going to be able to make this a title decider if he can keep going, if he can keep it out of the wall. He is going to be the WMSC 3 World Tour Champion, the inaugural champion. And Josh Cassar would win his first race in online sim racing, his first victory in 13 years of pursuing this hobby. All the hard work, all the dedication, all the disappointment, all the sweat, tears, anxiety associated with this hobby, but it is all going to come to fruition. One more turn to go for the number 100 in the Team ORSL car. Final chicane, and Josh Cassar wins the 5th round of the championship. And I've got to stop because, and I don't want to be a copycat, I've got a lump in my throat.
Yes! Proud of you, man! Woo-hoo!
Josh Cassar, you are a race winner. Absolute f***ing legend. You deserve it.
Sorry, guys.
Mate, that's incredible. Well done.
Well, Kevin Peters is the king of the Norris Ring. Josh Cassar, you are the king of Adelaide. Absolutely mental. Proud of you, man. Absolutely proud of you.
Thank you, mate. Oh my god, this 13.
Congratulations to Josh Cassar for taking the race win.
Wow.
Right, let's calm the down now. Jesus Christ.
And let's not forget, Lorenzo Turi is the inaugural WMSC 3 World Tour Champion. He has been the standout performer of this entire series, and all I can say is, World Monoposto Sim Racing Championship, be warned, you've got a natural talent on your hands. And talent is exactly what Josh Cassar was able to show today. What an incredible drive, absolutely mature, absolutely on it throughout the entire week, throughout practice, throughout qualifying as I decide to take a little bump into him. Absolutely deserved. And we'd also like to point out that Max Heyman received a 30-second time penalty after the race for 2 incidents, which we're going to show on screen right now. Overtaking before the start-finish line during a safety car restart, as well as bumping into the SCMM driver Josh Flynn in the final turn. But let's have a look at the race result for Adelaide. So let's have a look at the result once again. Josh Cassar wins ahead of Lorenzo Turi, who is now officially the WMSC 3 World Tour Champion. Roy Seifert finishes in a great 3rd place. Josh Flynn in 4th. Danya Bentreader only a 5th place. Not enough to get the championship fight to Suzuka. Aaron Curtis in 6th. Adam Rosinko in 7th. Juho Tseco-Sopanen still manages to finish in the points in 8th. Dominic Kronsky in 9th. Hugh Hamill in 10th. Max Heyman with his 32nd penalty in 11th. Ash Baker in 12th. Agostino Bivona would receive a 10-second penalty as well. He's in 13th. I finished 14th ahead of Giovanni Philippe, Mark Wittmann with a 5-second penalty, and Lucas Hamilton. And as you can see, Lorenzo Turi is 12 points ahead of Daniel Bentreader, and despite the fact that Bentreader could theoretically still score 12 points at Suzuka on countback, he is not able to win this year's WMSC 3 World Tour. Heyman's still in 3rd in the championship. I'm somehow still in 4th place ahead of Packley and Flynn and Seifert. And in the team's championship, it seems as if Kostek has pretty much won this year's WMSC 3 World Tour, but that's only if Mistral decides to not bring in more people for the final round at Suzuka, so let's see what happens there. Bravo Snowschatten Esports in 3rd ahead of C2F Racing, Backrow Motorsports, and SCMM. That's still a tight battle for 3rd place there in the team's championship, and we're going to find out how that's going to turn out in the final race of the WMSC 3 World Tour at Suzuka East. Until then, thank you for watching and keep racing.